Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. Oh, very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies coming. Sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button. Please smash the subscribe button for Christ's sake. And the like button. And please do follow me on Twitter where I'm absolutely hilarious on there at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Monday's edition of the DC Multiverse Daily, as we're calling it now. One thing's for sure, Ray Fisher isn't going anywhere. He's back again. He's been back more times than James Bond, right? And he did a 15-minute video on Instagram, and we need to take a listen to it. I have not listened to a piece of this, but things have obviously dribbled over on Twitter. But I want to get my facts straight before I respond to this. And so that's what we're going to do right now. Make sure the volume's up. So let's do this. This is what Ray Fisher had to say. 15 minutes long. Not sure if it's all necessary for us to listen to the whole 15 minutes. I haven't heard it yet. So I haven't vetted it. Ray wants to vet the investigator. I haven't vetted his Instagram video. Hey, I guess I'm just going to have to trust you, hey, Ray. Let's do this.
Out there who has shown me nothing but love and nothing but support over the last couple of days. You know, I am in shock and awe at two things. I'm in shock and awe that Warner Brothers would have even had the audacity to put out a statement like that. They've set themselves up, unfortunately, for a lot of issues.
I told you he did not expect Warner Brothers to make the statement. Now, I'm hoping that this is the time where he covers everything they covered in their statement. He has to do it because, as I say, I haven't heard this yet, because if he doesn't do this, then I'm going to expose him right here, right now, here on Big Mouth, exclusively on the DC Multiverse Daily.
Do not know how many receipts I have for interactions that I've had. They do not know the people that I've been talking to. They do not know a lot of people that I have that are willing and able to take part in the investigation. And that, unfortunately, is something that is ultimately going to...
An investigation you're holding up through your paranoia.
It's going to jam them up in a big way. It was a bold move for them to go out and flat out call me a liar, in a sense, and say that I was not attempting to, or at least to, not call me a liar, but to say that I was attempting to not communicate or attempting to avoid the investigator or not cooperating with the investigator. It's the worst kind of spin that you can put on a situation like this, because I've got the receipts to prove that at every step of the way, there's been clear communication as to...
Ray, you've already told us you met with the investigator, and as soon as you said this, you said you didn't have a rep, he had a witness, so you stopped it. You should have had a rep, Ray. We've discussed this before, so it's boring. But I want to be clear where I am here, right? He should have been prepared with a rep. He knew that, and by doing that, he had an out of the interview. So from the outside looking in, it looks like he's trying to delay matters. Let's take a listen to more.
What it is that we've been attempting to do. And so they put themselves in a really weird place, I'm not going to lie. And it really sucks because ultimately what's going to happen is somebody's going to get thrown under the bus for that statement that they put out. And if you notice in that statement, there was not a single quote from Walter Hamada. There was not a single quote from anyone. It was a blanket PR statement that was put out.
Yes, Ray, Walter Hamada isn't going to come out and start making quotes, right? They are talking for him. They spoke with him. This is how big companies operate. And clearly, you don't know how big companies operate, especially the entertainment industry. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying to speak like this. You're trying to say, because Walter Hamada hasn't spoken himself, this is not what happens. And let's remember, Warner Brothers have never defended Jeff Johns publicly once. The only time they made a statement was 3 days ago when you, through poor Walter Hamada, under the bus. Now, before that, Ray, I was supporting you, and I still love you, dude, but I was supporting you. I can't support you when you exposed a private conversation. At the end of the day, even if he did say that to you, so what? It's a negotiation, Ray. Do you understand? This is how business works. Jeff Johns still works for them. They sacked him as Chief Operating Officer at DC Entertainment. That's what they're saying to you. They don't want to work him out of the company. And I know that's what you want.
So, as seems to be the way, and what I said about Walter Hamada throwing Joss Whedon and John Berg under the bus is absolutely true. But as seems to be the way, they probably intend to throw somebody's poor assistant under the bus for being the one that had to press send on that email. And that's unfortunately how it goes. It's
No, this is good. He's doing what he didn't do in the past couple of days. Obviously, he had to get his thoughts together. He had to talk to his advisors and make sure he says the right stuff. So I'm glad at least he's covering the Hamada stuff and everything that he said. He set this off. He set them off. He went after Hamada, so they have come after him. What did you think was going to happen, Ray? You've actually admitted that you're surprised they made that statement. Come on, Ray. This is one of the biggest companies in the world, and you are fucking with them, even though Jeff Johns has been removed as Chief Operating Officer of DC Entertainment, right? That he hasn't got any real power anymore. Literally, he's writing TV shows and assisting Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman, right? What do you want him to do? Be the cleaner? Serve the fucking lunches? This is what I mean. Please, Ray, tell us what you want.
gross. It's really gross. But the only way to cut through the PR spin is to hit it with hard fact, hard evidence, and to let people know, you're not playing games. So it's a really weird game. It's a sad and desperate game, but it's a predictable one. And they are simply being...
He said it's a predictable one. About 2 minutes before, he said he was surprised they put out that statement.
Reactionary now, which is obviously not a good look. I made it very clear weeks before, or at least, on August 21st, 5 days before I was to go in and talk to the investigator, that I would be doing my due diligence. I would be vetting the situation and making sure that the investigator was indeed a third party and a fair and impartial individual. What they neglected to mention in the article that they had put out, and some people called it a hit piece, and for all intents and purposes it is, but what they had neglected to mention is that after my conversation with Walter Hamada, wherein I demanded of Walter that we be able to take this to whatever next step needed to be taken, because in the article they made it seem as if he bestowed this gracious request upon me to take it to the next level. Not at all. Not at all. After finally pinning him down and saying, would you be willing to support an investigation into what I'm relaying? And he and I had talked in great detail about Joss Whedon. We talked in great detail about Jeff Johns. We talked in great detail about John Berg. And his excuse for the situation with Jeff Johns was, well, Ray, I worked with Jeff on Shazam. I don't really think that he would do that sort of stuff or be that sort. And I go, Walter, you weren't there. I'm telling you, you weren't. You were not there when the man used back channel communication to call me into his office and made the veiled threat to my career. You weren't there for that. I said you weren't.
Right, this is really good stuff because he's being honest about it. So what he's alleging is that Walter Hamada said, listen, I worked with the guy on Shazam. I don't think he would say that. That's fair enough. Again, this is not a criminal act, right? This is not, Walter hasn't done anything wrong here, right? He said, listen, mate, I worked with the guy and I don't think he would do that, right? He doesn't believe you, Ray. That's fair enough, right? Because you're coming from your own point of view. Now, Ray, in the Warner Brothers statement, they allege that the only investigation and the only information that you've given them is actually towards your script adjustments not being adhered to. But you're claiming that you wanted a bigger investigation. So let's see what he says about that.
There, when Jeff Johns contacted me in 2018, a year and a half after Justice League, while I was shooting True Detective, to gloat, using back channel communications to gloat that there'd be another cyborg being used in the DC universe in a show that he was producing. I said, Walter, you weren't there for those things, so you can't tell me about it.
Ray, you keep on going on about back channels. Yes, your boss told you if you didn't shape up, you'd be removed in the role, right? Happened a million times. Again, not a criminal act. What do you think's going to happen about that? It's a little bit immoral, right? But again, Ray, what do you think's going to happen? Are we going to drag Jeff Johns through the street because he said to you basically in an underhanded, backwards way, but you better watch yourself, mate. There's other people who want to play this role. And then, after you finished doing Justice League, he rang you up to say that the DC Universe has got a new cyborg. So what? So fucking what? This is what you want an investigation about? Of course Walter Hamada's going to laugh you out the fucking office, Ray, because these aren't receipts, my friend. These are not criminal acts, right? Maybe he is mocking you and saying, well, we've got a new cyborg now. You better watch yourself. Or maybe it was banter. We don't know. You know. And I suppose I've got to believe you. But the point is, this conversation about Jeff Johns telling you they've got a new cyborg is nothing, Ray. It's nothing. And if this is all you've got in the conversations with Walter and Jeff, you have absolutely nothing. Your receipts are blank.
And so, finally, when we got to the heart of all that stuff, and I realized that clearly this is a situation wherein Walter was attempting to protect Jeff Johns because of his continued business partnerships, such as Wonder Woman 1984, such as whatever other projects that they may have coming down the pipeline. I ended up saying, listen, this is just what I need. And so when he wanted more specifics about what was said and who said it, I refused to give him such specifics. I said, Walter, this is sensitive information. I said, the people that have stories to tell need to be protected. And so he did not escalate the situation in Warner Media. I received a phone call from the head of HR, the vice president of HR, and the vice president of labor relations from Warner Brothers. I had a 2-hour initial conversation with them wherein I detailed beat for beat, gave them names of people that they should interview, all of these things. And so, the fact is I've got so many details that I can put to these stories, and I'm willing to do it face to face. All right. So when having to combat that with generalized statements, generalized press releases, it's an impossible task for them to do. And so, since they've opened up the can of worms, there are going to be certain things that I'm now going to be saying publicly, not about the specific experiences in Justice League, but in how the things have been handled up until this point, since I've come out with my allegations about Joss Whedon and Jeff Johnberg. And if you remember, I had left in quotation marks and others. And there was a very specific reason why I put and others in quotation marks when I mentioned the Warner Brothers, the Warner Media investigation. So, you guys, I appreciate the love and I appreciate the support. I'm not going to stop fighting. I've had so many people reach out to me, both
He's not going away, that's for sure. You've got to give the guy respect for his brass knuckles, right? But Walter Hamada asked for further details, and he wouldn't give further details, right? Now, this is interesting because, look, Ray, I respect the fact you want to protect other people, right? But at the end of the day, again, what other people are you protecting? Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, Ezra Miller. They should be standing alongside you in this fucking video, but they're not. Henry Cavill is getting more roles than my bog paper in my toilet, right? Ben Affleck has got more projects than the length of my arm, right? Gal Gadot's got loads of projects. They're doing fine and you're standing there on your own. But what I do query, Ray, is you should have told Walter, if you've got real dirt, you could have told him. You could have told him this dirt, right? then he wouldn't be able to do anything. He knows you're a determined, stubborn young man. You've still got the information, but you're relaying it to him, right? So you had a 2-hour he had a 2-hour conversation with the president, I think, of HR, whatever it is, right? So he's had that conversation. He then had a discussion with an investigator, but halted the discussion because he felt he wasn't a third party and he had a witness. I still don't see the problem with the witness, and I still don't understand, Ray, why you didn't have a ref, right? But so far, Ray, the stuff that you've actually told us about Jeff Johns and Walter Hamada, it doesn't make me think that they've done anything wrong. You were told there was another cyborg. So what? Walter Hamada, said, listen, mate, I don't believe you. I've had experiences with Jeff Johns. Listen, Ray's right. They have a partnership with Jeff Johns, and they're not going to run him out of the company. So the problem is right here. The more he delays the investigation, right? So he's saying they're lying about the third-party investigation and that it was instigated by Warner Media. But as I said yesterday, Warner Media are the company that own everything. They're AT&T, basically, in terms of Warner Brothers, right? And obviously they own Warner Brothers Pictures too. And so, listen, Ann Sarnoff, right, and Jason Kilar know everything that's going on, right? They know. There's no way they don't know. So this is now an interesting situation because he's saying he was interviewed for 2 hours, but that wasn't the investigation. Now, to be fair to Ray, they didn't mention the 2-hour conversation with HR, but they did mention the fact that he refused to speak with the investigator. Now, what they mean by that is he refused to carry forward that interview because he doesn't believe it's by a third party. I think with him coming out like this, at least when this investigation will go forward now with a third party, he's kind of shamed them into it. So in that aspect, that's good. But again, he doesn't actually know. He hasn't got any evidence that was a Warner Brothers investigator and not a third party investigator, right? He could be very right. But again, an email screenshot isn't much evidence.
Personally, and people who I don't know, professionals in the industry who reached out and said, I know you're telling the truth. I know you're telling the truth because they know the people that we're dealing with. And so they're encouraging me to go on. You guys are encouraging me to go on. I'm going to keep.
He's spoken to people in the industry. I love it when they say this. And of course, they're not going to mention any names. Who are you talking about? Who in the industry, right? You know this is true. But again, Ray, what is true? What is true? That Jeff Johns told you he cast a new cyborg, that Walter Hamada said, oh, I know Jeff, just my mate, Of course he's going to say that. And as you rightly said, they have partnerships. The things that you're accusing of, because and this is very interesting now, we've left the conversation behind about Joss Whedon, and we are focusing on Jeff Johns, the very man who forced Zack off the DCEU project. And this is the heart of the matter. This is not about John Berg. This is not about Joss Whedon. This is about what was done to Zack, right? This is the heart of the matter. So, is he working on his own? Is he working via Zack Snyder while Zack pulls the strings behind the scenes like some kind of Lex Luthor? I don't know. I love Zack Snyder, as you know, and I love his DCEU movies. But the heart of the matter is something else as well. Let's not forget, he's right now negotiating a contract for the Flashpoint movie. Interesting timing, isn't it?
Fighting a good fight, but I'm going to fight it with hard fact. I'm not going to fight it with emotion like they're probably wanting me to do. I'm going to fight it with hard fact. I'm going to fight it with logic. I'm going to fight it with common sense. Because, obviously, that's the only thing that can cut through the nonsense, right? That's the only thing that can cut through those sorts of weird blanket statements that people make. So, I will say, shame on them for doing that. And if they are hoping that I sue them so that they can go on and ask a judge to put a gag order on me until all this stuff is done, they've got another thing coming. I don't care what the situation ends up being, you're not going to keep me quiet. So, that end, because I have not given them all the information, right? They're trying to figure out exactly who's telling me what I know, and what I'm willing to say. And because I have not run it by them, I have not run it by anybody prior to me saying some of the things that I've been saying, they don't know what I'm going to say next or how I'm going to respond. So they tested the waters with that statement, and I think people saw through it immediately. And it backfired on them in a big way. Because when I can furnish receipts to immediately refute critical pieces of information that you're trying to use to defame me, you're toast. You're toast. So, like I said, they've escalated it to a different level now. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what the next best steps are to proceed in the situation. So yeah, just know we're going to get it done. And if any weird or funky stuff starts happening, you see weird or funky stories floating out around there, floating out there about me, you'll know. You already know. So I'm a bit of a ramble right now, but I usually ramble to myself while I'm walking. It helps me clear my head rather. But insofar as that's concerned, I want to thank you guys so much. This is one of those things where it affects more than just myself. All right, I know that I will take ultimately the brunt of what this is, but this affects my family. All right, you got people reaching out to my siblings, going, "Hey, what's going on? I'm seeing these headlines. Is everything okay?" So on and so forth. And I got to tell them, "Hey, listen, don't worry. You know how the media spin goes. I got it under control." So.
But Ray, it's you who's putting your family and friends in the crosshair by doing this. When you're Cyborg, right, in the movies, you're Cyborg. You had a plum roll. Zach's back. John's is not running anything anymore. But you want blood, my friend. And that's the problem. I don't think you're going to get it. Now, listen, I used to work in the Co-op supermarket. And we had this female manager. She wanted to prove she was one of those go-getting females. So she did everything to drive me insane, to drive me out of the company. She tried to say I couldn't read, couldn't write. She tried to get me to get paid by a charitable company, trying to say I wasn't the full ticket, right? And I fought her, and I won. And I got £1,000 redundancy from them. That was years ago. I was very young back then. And I stayed out of work for ages just partying because I'd worked really hard there. So, Ray, I totally understand going up against the man. I do. I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing it. I'm saying, where were you, Ray? Where were you for the past 3 years? Why wasn't you doing this when we were fighting for the Snyder Cut? When there was actually something to fight for, right? When people had actually lost their positions, where Ben Affleck wasn't going to be Batman anymore, right? Where Henry Cavill was fighting with Warner Brothers Pictures behind the scenes to get a sequel, a direct sequel to Man of Steel. Where were you then, Ray, when there was something to fight for? There's literally nothing to fight for because your aim of getting Jeff Johns removed isn't going to wash. The very least you're going to get from Jeff is an apology. You will not get him removed. Now, you reckon there's other things that other people know. But if it's as lightweight as Jeff Johns ringing you up, telling you Cyborg's, he's cast another Cyborg, or that Walter Hamada said, hey, he's a good bloke, I'm sorry. Really? That's why you've thrown Walter Hamada under the bus? Because he said, why can you just, talk about Joss Whedon and John Berg and not Jeff Johns, right? He made a request, and all you have to say is, mate, you know what? I'm a bit offended by you saying that. I'm not going to do that because this is important to me, even though I don't understand, right? Even though Johns has lost so much credibility, respect, you've got to allow the man to work. What do you want from this, Ray? This is what I don't get. Actually, no, but I'm sorry, I just can't agree with you.
They're going to keep doing what they do, and I'll keep calling it out, and I'll let you know what the motivation behind their moves are. because they're not used to people just calling it out blatantly, particularly the people that they're dealing with. They're used to being passed through PR person after PR person, making sure that it's a statement that reduces blowback, reduces this, reduces that. I don't play those kind of games. I don't. I do not. And so, you know, they've got a lot more power. They've got a lot more access to outlets to be able to blast their story out. But what I'm grateful for, what I thank my lucky stars for, is that I've got you guys out there helping to lift me up and helping to actually spread the truth out there about what's going on. So I was supposed to do some game streaming later on today, but I may just turn that into a quick thank you session for all of you guys over on Twitch later on at we'll probably say about 6 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, I'll do that. It'll just be a just chatting conversation, and you already know. Outside of that, y'all, I'm going to stay on them. I'm going to make sure that the investigation situation is one that is fair and that protects everybody that's got a story to tell, because it ends up these are some of the people.
He's right. He is correct to protect the people who have information. Let me tell you why. Because once they find out who knows things and who's willing to talk, they'll work them out of the company, or they'll intimidate them into keeping silent. So this is why Ray's protecting them, and he's right to do so. The problem is, what do they know about Jeff Johns? He claims the other information he's not talking about is so explosive, right? So if we actually do genuinely get a third-party investigator and the information that his people have is this explosive, then Jeff Johns is finished, obviously. There is no way around this. There's no way around this. And this is something that Warner Brothers want to avoid, right? But this young man wants blood. He wants Jeff Johns to pay with his career. This is what he wants. Now, I don't believe that's right, and I don't believe it's fair, because at the end of the day, Jeff Johns is not running, as I keep on saying. So the punishment is there, but this lad wants more than that.
People that have stories to tell do not have the protection of having a large social media following to go to bat for them, right? Some of the people that have stories to tell, if it goes into the hands of the wrong person who's just simply looking to see who are the troublemakers, who are the ones saying this or doing that, they're the ones that are ultimately going to end up getting hurt beyond repair, with respect to employment and all that stuff. And as I've said in the past, I've been down a road similar to this before, right? Back in 2010, I spearheaded an effort to unionize a group of workers at a job I was working at. And ultimately, during that...
We should just call Ray Fisher Christopher Eccleston. This is exactly what happened to Chris when he was the Doctor in Doctor Who. He did exactly the same thing. He wanted people to be treated fairly. Ray Fisher is a good man. He wants people to be treated fairly. Now, he's admitted, he's about to tell us a story of him trying to unionize something, maybe on a set or a TV project, I don't know. We'll listen to it in a minute. So what he's trying to do, he's trying to clean up the industry. He wants people to be treated properly and right and respectfully. Ray, you can do this. You can keep on doing this. And I believe you're going to keep your job as Cyborg. So I'm happy about that. The only thing I'm not happy about is the exposing of Walter Hamada. I thought that was wrong. And I still think that conversation and the side of it you had with him doesn't expose him as a bad person. So in a way, I don't know why you keep on going on about him. But anyway, what he's doing, he's trying to clean up the industry. I'm not saying he should stop. I'm saying it won't end well. But when you're brave and when you're a hero, and he is. He's doing something just. He's trying to clean things up. There's nothing stopping him from doing that. But I will say this. It does leave a bad taste in the mouth when we're getting so much. and where Warner Media and AT&T are making such efforts to clean up the company that is Warner Brothers. They've got rid of so many people at Warner Brothers Pictures, and they put their own people in. They are trying their best, and this just muddies the waters, because at the end of the day, Warner Media want to make money, and they can make money with Jeff Johns. He's one of the most talented writers ever. Now, unless he's going around sexually harassing people, threatening to kill them, I really don't know. From what you've said he's done, it's just, for me, it's just so minute, and you can't work someone out of a company for the things that you're accusing him for, Ray.
That process, I myself had contacted the union. And checked with them. This was 2010. It was the local 360 based out of New Jersey, United Food and Commercial Workers Union. There were issues at the job. We were trying to get unionized. Myself and some other folks were let go during this effort. And we took that situation all the way to the National Labor Relations Board. All right? This is not stuff that I play around with. And I'm lucky that I've got SAG-AFTRA on it, because a lot of these calls, a lot of this information has been directed to them as well. So I'll be reaching out to them to make sure that we can coordinate our efforts to make sure that this does not escalate into simply a smear campaign. Because, you know, if they can't buy you and they can't bully you, the only thing they can try to do is discredit you. So we're going to go ahead and get it done one way or the other. So we're walking uphill, my heart rate's going up. So anyway, thank you guys again. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the concern. I'd be less concerned, and because I already know once we get it to the people who are actually going to be impartial, the people at Warner Media, and I say Warner Media, not Warner Brothers, because there was an issue with respect to us being told that the investigator was working for Warner Media. And then I found out that it was a person working for Warner Brothers. And there's a massive distinction. And so there was a lot of floundering back and forth in email conversation as to who this person was actually working for. So the one thing I cannot have happen, the one thing I will not do, is rush through a situation like this simply for them to throw two individuals who they no longer have any business ties with under the bus in order to protect other individuals who were at the company and who may still be at the company. And that's the bottom line. So I appreciate it. I'm going to stop rambling. I'll see you guys later on today.
Well. This is exactly what I wanted from you, Ray. At least you're answering their statement. This was a very, very, very good video. Very good video. He's absolutely gone out on a video and pretty much threatened one of the biggest companies in the world. He said, I'm here for the long haul. I'm going to fight you. I want these individuals out of Warner Brothers Pictures, and I'm not going to stop until I speak to an independent investigator and get this done. Right. So what is my initial reaction about this? Well, my initial reaction is that at the end of the day, he's going to do what he's going to do, whatever I say and whatever I think. Look, I like the lad. Look, this guy's a troublemaker. This guy's a socialist, right? Let's get this right. This guy is a real socialist, right? He's a Columbo. He ain't gonna look. This geezer ain't gonna stop. He's not gonna stop. Whatever we do and whatever we say, he's going for this. He wants an independent investigator to know what he says he knows and what other people he spoke to knows. It has to happen. We want to get this done. Let's get this done and see what happens, right? And then we'll see if Jeff Johns and Toby Emmerich will ever... Because this is who he's after. He's after the people who drove Zach out of the DCEU. This is what he wants, right? I do think Zach's the one behind the scenes driving this. I really do. And I'm not saying Zach's right or wrong for doing that. I'm just telling you. Jeff Johns and Toby Emmerich are the two people that fans keep on talking about. And they are still there. You know, Jeff's working with the DCEU movies still, and he's working with, basically, Jeff has a producer's credit on everything DC. He's Mr. DC, right? So that's a hard person to get rid of. So basically, this young man is going to be stubborn. He's going to be thorough until Emmerich and Johns are out of the company. Can he do it? Or is he just fighting the biggest monster ever, and is he going to get stamped on? Well, let me tell you what I garnered from that interview. I garnered from that interview that actually this is a really smart fucking cookie, this young guy. He's a really smart cookie, right? I've said a lot of things. I'm still sticking to what I said the other day because he didn't respond to that stuff straight away. So he didn't want to do that. He wanted to get his stuff together. He wanted to think about the words he was going to use. So first of all, this is a well-educated young guy, but he has got natural grey matter, right? So what I get from that video is that this is no mug. He knows how they work, which is a little bit surprising. He knows tactically he's bang on. He knows what he's doing, but at the end of the day, this is Hollywood. This is big business. And at the end of the day, Ray, you may think that you're not going to bargain, you're not going to relent. But, Ray still... Look, I'm convinced this does not affect Ray in Flashpoint or in his own Cyborg movie. He's still going to get all that because he's got them by the balls now. They now know. He's literally answered everything that they wrote down on the press release. That's good. That's what I wanted, Ray. This is what I was complaining about yesterday. So thank you for doing that. I absolutely appreciate that. And so, do I stand with Ray Fisher? Listen, this is my opinion because I'm still hearing things about boycotts. I'm a DC fan. I'm a movie fan. I don't call myself movies TV mad on Twitter for nothing. I fucking love escapism and movies and TV dramas. And I even love the soaps, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not boycotting anything for anyone. Fandom is exciting. The future for DC live action is exciting. So at that point, I am not boycotting anything. But I must admit that video was very, very revealing. And let's just say I liked what he said. And I liked some of the things he said. But I will go back. I'll stand by him in terms of seeing how this plays out. And if he manages to get rid of Emmerich and Johns, wow, he deserves everyone's respect, right? I don't know if he can do that. Because at the end of the day, Emmerich and Johns... Listen, Jeff Johns is a purist. Simple as that. And I've tried to explain to you before. He was in charge. He wanted an inspirational DC live-action universe. And Zack Snyder wanted something different set in the real world. I don't think either idea is bad. The two wouldn't compromise. That's the problem. I think they're both at fault because they wouldn't compromise. Sit down, because it has to be a partnership. Basically, I think you either have Zack or Jeff Johns running things. That's the problem that DC Entertainment made. Is it Jeff Johns? Is it Zack Snyder? This is the mistake they made. But that's in the past, right? And so Jeff wanted it one way and Zack wanted it another. It was never going to work. One of them had to go, and it was Zack. Now, Jeff has lost his leadership role as creative executive officer of DC Entertainment. Zack's back. Zack is back, right? We're literally getting a dark Aquaman. Zack is back. We're getting a darker Shazam. Zack is back. This is all proof, right? We have got what we want. Now, the question I have to ask you, especially you people, saying I stand with Ray Fisher, I'm boycotting Wonder Woman 84 and things like that. The question you need to ask yourselves is, don't you think Jeff Johns has lost enough? Don't you think he's been punished already? He's admitted he didn't do the right things when he was in that big position, right? And I understand you want Emmerich out, you want Johns out. Personally, I can live with them remaining. If they were to be removed, that would be very, very interesting. But let me be absolutely clear. There's probably a 25% chance of removing Emmerich and Johns. I would say the reason that Warner Media haven't removed Emmerich already, he probably knows where the bodies are buried. He's probably too smart and too big and too powerful to remove, and they're going to have to find something on him. It's basically like what happened with Sujihara. They had to wait, because they hadn't officially taken over Time Warner yet. But it was really allegedly J.J. Abrams said he wouldn't do the deal with Warner Brothers unless Sugihara was removed. So basically, they found some dirt on him and used that as the excuse to get rid of him. And that's what's going to have to happen, I suppose, with Emmerich and Johns. I would imagine that Warner Media and Zack Snyder are behind this move that Ray Fisher is doing. That's how I see it. That they're trying to go after the beast. That's Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers Pictures, Warner Brothers Entertainment, whatever you want to call it, right? And once they've got their real foothold on there, they can do whatever they want. So we're going to have to see if they're successful or not. This is very political. This is one of the biggest things I've ever seen in the industry. And it's going to be very interesting. It's a power struggle. So, as I say, why wasn't Ray doing this before? Because it probably wasn't the right move. But, as I say, my anger and frustration to Ray is thawing out a little bit. I was a little bit more aggressive and angry with him. But seeing that video, I can see what he's saying and I can see his side of it. And he wants to make sure he's protecting people, and that's good. And that's very respectful. And he is doing something that is quite brave and quite wonderful. But also, on the other side, I will still stick to my guns and say, Ray, Jeff Johns has lost everything already, right? What you want, as I keep on saying, is blood. But we will see what happens. What do you think of this madness? This is absolutely mad. Ray Fisher isn't going away, and neither is Jeff Johns. I would say right now we need a statement from Jeff Johns. I think this is the only way this can go away. Because even though Ray Fisher wants blood, the way that he won't get blood, Jeff Johns has been quiet and silent for 3 years, with accusation after accusation after accusation. Now, we know that Diane Nelson is no friend of his. Has she got something to say? Has she spoken to Ray Fisher, privately? Is she one of the people that the independent investigator will speak to? That's an interesting side of this. What I would say to you is, as a DC fan, this doesn't affect me. I'm excited for the plans that they've got. The multiverse strategy is a great idea, and it's going to expand things, and it's going to give everyone what they want, a variety of tones and visions. That's exactly what we want, and we're going to find out about their plans in the coming weeks and months, and that's very exciting as well. So the Ray Fisher stuff, it doesn't affect any of that, and it won't even affect Ray Fisher's career. It won't, because Ray's so smart. He's gone public, so if they were to sack him or to remove him, it would literally prove what he's saying about them all along. So he's in negotiations, right, to play Cyborg. I do expect him to get his own movie as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets... Basically, this guy's going to get anything he wants now. He's shown them how clever he is. If I was them, I would sit down and work out the damage of removing Jeff Johns. Obviously, you could literally remove Ray Fisher, but Ray Fisher there, this guy's a socialist, mate. If you remove him, it doesn't matter what reason they give, he's going to go after them harder, because now his fans are going to stick by him. Do you understand? This is now an even power struggle. Even though Warner Brothers are a massive, important company, Ray Fisher claims he knows where the bodies are buried. But just finishing this, so far, Ray, all you've given me is Jeff Johns telling you that he cast another Cyborg, and Walt Hamada saying, hey, dude, Jeff Johns my man. He wouldn't do nothing like that. Do you know what I mean? Right now, you haven't said anything that proves to me that you can win this thing. But you reckon you know so much and you have so many receipts. So, I want this done. I want this investigation done, and I want to see what happens. But I think, unless anything drops, I don't want to be talking about this anymore. We don't want to be talking about this. People keep on saying, hey, Mick, we don't want you talking about it so much. And I say, yes, but this is what I'm here for. I have to talk about this as well. I want to talk about my excitement for the future, and I have done. And I think as from tomorrow, we will go back to talking about the movies and the TV shows, because that's more positive and fun. But I thought it was very important that we covered this interview. And as I asked you before, please let me know in the comments down below. If you have friends and family who are interested, please tell them about my channel. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DC Multiverse Daily. See you again soon.